Off-season grades, the Montreal Canadiens. Let's get right to it. No one's complaining this time around that Marc Bergevin, the GM, didn't take full advantage of his cap space. Let's start with the key arrivals, beginning with the forwards. Let's talk about Josh Anderson. He came across in that trade from Columbus for Max Domi. The right winger upped his contract for 7 years at $5.5 million with Montreal. Wow, that's rich. And a long-term deal for a guy who's coming off a shoulder injury and who didn't play too well when he did. And Columbus kept him out of the lineup quite a lot, especially in the postseason as well, which was a little curious, right? I mean, the season before that, he put up like 27 goals, came close to 20 in 2 seasons prior to that as well. He's a big power forward. Montreal doesn't have that. And they were weak on the right side, so he fits really well with them. Question is, can he still play, and how well? Then there's Tyler Toffoli, the UFA that they picked up and signed him to a fabulous 4-year, $4.25 million deal. He'll probably play the right side, I would imagine, his natural side, but he can also play the left. Good on the power play, puts up 20 goals per season, got a ton of playoff experience, won a Stanley Cup or two. And now, all of a sudden, Montreal goes from having one of the weakest right sides to one of the deepest. Let's move to defense and talk about Joel Edmondson, who they picked up for 4 years at a $3.5 million deal. Some might say that it's a little bit rich for him. He's sort of a stay-at-home defenseman who's responsible. He's not going to put up much points, but he can play in almost any kind of system, right? Question is, where is he going to slot in the lineup on that second or third pairing? We'll get back to that in a second. Lastly, the key arrivals. Let's talk about Jake Allen, the goaltender who, in a trade for St. Louis, they has 1 more year left on his contract at $4.35 million. Of course, they re-signed him. We'll get to that in a second, though. But he was brought over to give Carey Price a little breathing room, right? Because during the regular season, Price looked pretty bad. Let's, face it. And then, COVID came along. He had that break. And the playoffs, he was a monster. Had like a .936 save percentage. So if Jake Allen can come in, win some games, give Price some rest, it could be a huge difference for them actually full on making the playoffs this time around to Carey Price doing some damage for this team after the regular season. Next, let's talk about key departures very quickly. Max Domi, of course, left in the Anderson trade. I mentioned that already, to Columbus. The re-signings. Let's start with Brendan Gallagher, who could probably be their captain, really. He puts a lot of blood, sweat, and tears over this club for the past number of years. Plays right wing, probably be on that first line. Signed a 6-year extension worth $6.5 million. Fair, right? He puts up anywhere from 23 to 33 goals per season for the last number of years now. Then let's move over to defense here, and let's talk about Jeff Petrie, who plays the right side. They re-signed him to a 4-year deal at $6.25 million. I squint just a little bit because he's 33. He's going to be 34 in December. But considering he's put up 40-plus points the past few seasons, you got to do what you got to do, right? Then there's Victor Mete, the left shot defenseman who can also play the right. He signed to a 1-year prove-it deal for $735K. Great signing right there. The kid's still really young. And then we get to, where's he going to play? Is he going to play beside Petrie on the second pairing on the left side, or is he going to play on the right with Romanov on the left on the third pairing? And then Edmondson plays whatever he doesn't. So I'd love to hear from you, Hat fans, what you think about that as well. Let's talk about, the Jake Allen re-signing. They, of course, upped his contract. They extended him for 2 more years at $2.87 million. So he goes from 4.35 to 2.87. And I know some of you are thinking about, what about Gaden Primo, who had a few drinks of water with the team during the regular season? Well, he's still really young. He's 21 years old. Another full year in the AHL is not going to hurt the guy. Even for the season coming after that, we all know goalies kind of come to they bear fruit a little bit later in their years than any other player, defenseman as well. So I'm not worried about him. And then, hey, if they want to trade Allen in the final year of his contract, I don't think he has a no-move clause or anything. They can do that and then bring in the cheaper Primo as Price's backup, right? Moving on, let's talk about rookies who could crack the lineup for the Habs, starting with Cole Caulfield. The right winger was a first-round pick in 2019. I don't think he starts with them. Definitely not. I mean, the kid's got a lot of potential. I think he could also play center if he wants to. But after them rushing Kotkaniemi and seeing how he's taken a step back in his progression, I think they'll at least give Cole Caulfield another year to marinate. Maybe he sees a cup of coffee here or there during the regular season, but I'm not even sure about that. Then there's Jake Evans, another center who was picked in the 7th round in 2014, who's now like 23, 24 years old, who I could see having a good shot at being that fourth-line center. He'll be battling out with it, of course, with Jordan Wheel and maybe even Ryan Poling, their 4th-ranked prospect by the Hockey News, who's a left winger but who can play center as well. He had that hat trick, was it a couple seasons ago in one game? But yeah, we'll see how they handle that. I think I'm betting on Evans. And of course, what do they do with the top 2 centers? Positions. I know it's basically Suzuki and Danault, right? But is Suzuki the first line center and Danault the second line, or is it's probably more of a 1A 1B situation because Danault will obviously be taking the toughest matchups because he's a better defensive centerman. In any case, the last rookie who cracked the lineup, as I mentioned already, is Romanov. Who's a left shot defenseman. He was picked in the 2nd round in 2018. Now, he's not going to put up a lot of points, but he's really good defensively. In his last year in the KHL, he was like a plus 20 or something. And he can transition the puck well. So, again, you'll see him on that third pairing, probably on the left side. My 5 profile picks here, I'm going to start with best acquisition. I'm going to give that to Jake Allen just because of how important Carey Price's rest is going to be. The sleeper in all this is no one I've mentioned yet. I think it's Jonathan Drouin. I mean, the guy can be really good, and then on a bunch of other nights, you don't even notice him. And this is someone who's supposed to be playing on their power play. So hopefully he comes along. The dark horse I'm going to say is Josh Anderson because of his injury and what happened last season and his contract, of course. Is that going to put a lot of pressure on him? The best bang for the buck, I'm going to give that to Tyler Toffoli with that beautiful deal, 4-year deal for $4.25 million. He's going to also play the power play, and he's responsible defensively as well. You can also argue somewhat Victor Mete's contract at $735,000 is a good one. And then don't forget about Romanov, who we mentioned already, and Kotkaniemi, who sort of made Domi spendable in the first place, didn't he? He didn't have a really good regular season, went to the AHL, did well there, point per game, went to Finland, and then maybe he wouldn't have even come back if it wasn't for COVID and the bubble and Domi not knowing if he could play. And then so he came across and played in the playoffs and did fantastically. So can he keep that up? Will we see that Kotkaniemi on the probably as a third line center once the season starts? So yeah, how am I going to grade this team? I think I'm going to, their off season, I'm going to give it an A-. I would love to hear from you Canadian fans, your grade in the comment section down below. And congratulations on making it to the end of the video. Please celebrate by hitting that like, subscribe, and notification bell, which will alert you when my next video comes out. I'm not going to tell you who it's going to be because last time I mentioned it would be Vancouver, and I'm doing the Habs. So it's going to be a surprise. Anyways, please be kind to each other out there, and thanks again, and I'll see you soon.